On his second day of surviving the apocalypse, the man woke up in a pile of hay, damp and cold all over. Shivering, he looked around and saw the houses other survivors had built in the camp using wood and stone slabs, thin wisps of cooking smoke drifting out from them. The sight filled him with envy. He made up his mind to build himself a wooden shack that could keep out the wind and rain. Camp 101 was bustling with people. Vendors hawking their goods mixed with the clang of the blacksmith's hammer. Hungry, he wandered around the camp's edges. Luck was on his side. By the trash heap, he found a few thick branches and an abandoned, tattered tent. The canvas had faded but was still usable. He found an empty plot in the camp, set up a simple triangular frame with 3 pieces of wood, draped the canvas over it, and tied it down with vines. A humble shelter was complete. He crawled inside to test it out. It was cramped, but it blocked the wind. If only he had a blanket, he thought to himself. Just then, the plaza broadcast crackled to life with a bounty notice. Hunting mission, goats by Greenwater Lake. Each goat could be redeemed for 10 gold bars. His eyes lit up. 10 gold bars were enough to buy 2 thick cotton blankets at the market, with maybe even some left over for food. He raised his hand high and signed up for the mission. When he checked the mission details, his heart sank. The route to Greenwater Lake might involve infected, and all he had on him was a rusty wrench. No proper weapon to speak of. Getting into close combat was too risky. He needed a ranged weapon. The meetup time was 1 in the afternoon. He still had time to prepare. Scavenging around the camp, he found some flexible branches and hemp rope, and pulled a few steel rods off a wrecked vehicle. Using these simple materials, he crafted a makeshift longbow and a dozen arrows. The creak of the bowstring being drawn put his mind slightly at ease. His squad had 4 people in total. A middle-aged man with a machete, a young woman carrying an iron spear, a teenager armed with a homemade bow just like him, and himself. They set off along the trail toward Greenwater Lake. The journey was eerily quiet. No infected in sight. That unsettled him more than anything. Soon, Greenwater Lake came into view. Several white goats were drinking at the water's edge, looking perfectly calm. He drew his bow, ready to shoot, when something felt wrong. Beneath their white fur, patches of dark red seemed to show. The way their necks moved as they drank was unnaturally stiff. Then it hit him. This was a trap. He remembered being fooled by this when he was still a rookie. Mutated animals often acted as bait, and nearby, infected would be lying in ambush. He immediately shouted for everyone to run. Sure enough, the goats all turned their heads in unison, and infected burst out from the grass around them, forming a closing circle as they charged. These things actually knew how to set up an ambush. They fought as they retreated. He drew and loosed, hitting one infected as it lunged. It stumbled, and the young woman drove her spear through it. His arrows dwindled one by one. His arms trembled from the strain. Just as the encirclement was about to close, they finally broke through an opening. They ran without looking back. After sprinting at least a kilometer, and making sure no one was following, they collapsed under a tree, gasping for breath. The older man praised his sharp eyes. Just when they thought they would return empty-handed, luck smiled on them. On a hillside less than 2 kilometers from camp, they spotted 3 real wild goats. This time, there was no hesitation. He held his breath, aimed, and let the arrow fly. It struck one goat cleanly in the neck. The other 2 were quickly taken down by the rest of the team. As they carried their haul back to Camp 101, the setting sun had painted the ground gold. After handing over the goats, 10 gold bars sat heavy in his palm. At the market, he traded 8 gold bars for 2 thick cotton blankets. One he spread over the hay in his tent, the other to cover himself. With what was left, he bought a big chunk of rye bread and a bowl of hot broth. When night fell, he curled up on his new bedding, wrapped in the blanket that still smelled like sunshine, slowly chewing on the bread. The wind howled outside the tent, but inside, for the first time since arriving in this world, he felt warmth and peace. Tomorrow, he would start gathering wood, build a real cabin. With that thought, he drifted into a deep sleep, tired and satisfied.